For 2 days, Jeff and I danced around the fragile truce we'd built. He wasn't warm, not the way he used to be, but the ice was thinning. He asked small questions again, about my day, about dinner. And though it wasn't much, it was enough to keep me breathing. But I wasn't naive. If Jeff was softening toward me, then Sally would notice. And if Sally noticed, she'd make her move. I didn't have to wait long. On Thursday evening, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door, only to find Sally standing there, holding a thick envelope in her hand. "Maria," she said coolly, "I need to speak with my son." Her eyes flicked past me into the house, like I was nothing more than the help. "He's not home yet," I said firmly. "But you can tell me what this is about." She gave me a thin smile and held up the envelope. "It's a proposal. Something he'll want to see." "What kind of proposal?" I asked, my chest tightening. "A financial one," she replied smoothly. "I've spoken with an advisor about how to best manage your assets. It's really for your own good, Maria. Money of that size should never be left in the hands of someone inexperienced." My blood boiled. My grandmother trusted me to handle it. "Not you." Her smile never faltered. "And look how well that turned out. You hid it from your husband until it nearly destroyed your marriage." The words hit hard, but I didn't flinch. "Not this time. You don't get to rewrite this story, Sally. I made a mistake, yes, but you don't get to swoop in and take control." Just then, Jeff's car pulled into the driveway. Sally's smile sharpened. "Perfect timing," she said, brushing past me into the house before I could stop her. "Mom?" Jeff asked as he stepped inside, surprise etched across his face. "What are you doing here?" "I came to help," she said sweetly, holding out the envelope. "You and Maria have been through enough. This," she waved the papers, "is a solution. A way to secure your financial future together." Jeff glanced at me, then back at her. "What is this exactly?" "A management plan," she explained quickly. "If you sign, an advisor I know will oversee the apartments. You'll never have to worry about rent checks or tenants or maintenance. It will all be taken care of. Safely." I stepped forward, my voice sharp. Translation: she wants to take control of everything. Sally shot me a glare. "I'm protecting you, Maria. You don't know how to handle wealth. And frankly, your behavior has proven that." Jeff looked down at the envelope, then at both of us. The air was electric, the silence thick enough to choke on. Finally, he set the envelope on the counter without opening it. "Mom, I appreciate the concern, but this is between Maria and me. We'll figure it out together." The words were simple, but they landed like a cannonball. For the first time, Jeff had said it to her face. "Together." Sally's smile cracked. "Jeff, don't be foolish. You can't possibly." "I said we'll figure it out," Jeff repeated, his tone firm. For a moment, I thought she might explode. But instead, she drew herself up tall, smoothed her jacket, and gave me a look so cold it made my skin prickle. "This isn't over," she whispered. Then she turned and swept out of the house, the front door slamming behind her. Jeff exhaled, rubbing his forehead. "Maria, what have we gotten ourselves into?" I stepped closer, laying my hand on his arm. "Not we. She's the one stirring this up. But we can handle it, if we stand together." He didn't answer, but he didn't pull away either. And for now, that was enough. Still, as I picked up the envelope and saw the neat, typed contracts inside, a chill ran through me. Sally wasn't backing down. She was escalating. And I had no doubt, next time she'd come back stronger. I should have felt victorious. For the first time, Jeff had chosen me as over his mother. The shoebox was no longer a secret, and the words, "we'll figure it out together," still echoed in my head like a fragile promise. But deep down, I knew Sally too well. She wouldn't lick her wounds quietly. If she couldn't control Jeff directly, she'd find another way in. And she didn't waste any time. It started with the phone calls. First, Jeff's sister Lauren, who rang one Sunday morning. "Maria," she said warmly at first, but I caught the edge in her voice. "I just wanted to check in. Mom mentioned things have been tense." I forced a smile she couldn't see. "Tense is one word for it." "She only wants what's best for you," Lauren added quickly, almost rehearsed. "You know how Mom is, she worries. Maybe you should give her some room to help." "Help?" That word tasted bitter. Lauren, I said gently but firmly, Jeff and I are figuring things out on our own. I appreciate the concern, but this is between us. There was a pause, then a clipped, of course. Just remember, families should stick together. By the time I hung up, my stomach was in knots. It was clear. Sally was making her rounds, painting me as the stubborn outsider. Over the next week, it escalated. Jeff's cousin made a sly comment at a family barbecue about me being lucky to marry into stability. His aunt asked if I'd considered hiring a financial planner, someone Mom trusts, she added pointedly. Every word, every sideways glance, was laced with Sally's fingerprints, and Jeff noticed. Why does everyone suddenly care about our finances? He muttered one evening after yet another pointed conversation with his sister. He tossed his keys onto the counter, frustration etched across his face. Because your mother is stirring the pot, I said flatly. He rubbed his temples. She means well. She just doesn't know when to stop. I bit my tongue, holding back the sharp retort that burned on my lips. Jeff was finally starting to see his mother's patterns, but old habits ran deep. It was easier for him to believe she was simply overprotective than manipulative. That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I realized something important. Sally wasn't just fighting for control over the apartments. She was fighting for control over Jeff, over his loyalty, over us. And she was using the entire family as her weapon. The next day, I decided to push back in my own quiet way. I called Lauren. I know you care about your brother, I said calmly, but I need you to understand. This constant pressure is hurting our marriage. If you really love Jeff, you'll let him and me work this out together. Lauren was silent for a long time before sighing. Maria, you don't know Mom like I do. She doesn't stop. Ever. I know, I said softly. And that's exactly why Jeff and I need space. When I hung up, I didn't know if I'd made things better or worse. But at least I'd drawn a line. That evening, Jeff came home with a strange expression. He leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. Mom called me today, he said. I stiffened. What did she say? She told me, you've been trying to cut her off. That you're isolating me from the family. My heart dropped. That's not true, Jeff. I know, he cut in quickly, holding up a hand. I didn't believe her. Not this time. Relief washed over me, but it was tinged with fear. If Sally realized she couldn't wedge us apart directly, what would her next move be? I glanced at the shoebox still tucked safely in the closet and wondered how much longer we could keep our balance before Sally pushed us into chaos again. Because one thing was certain, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It was a Tuesday evening when the call came. Jeff's phone buzzed on the counter as we were cleaning up after dinner. He answered, and I watched his face shift from neutral to alarmed. Mom? What happened? His voice tightened. I froze, soap dripping from my hands. Jeff listened intently, murmuring the occasional or I see. When he hung up, he rubbed the back of his neck, looking conflicted. She says she's selling her house, he finally said. I blinked. What? She said she's overwhelmed. That managing it alone is too much. She's putting it on the market. I frowned, drying my hands. Jeff, that doesn't sound like Sally. She loves that house. She's lived there for 30 years. I know. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. She said she feels like she's losing the family. That if she sacrifices her home, it'll free her up to be closer to us. There it was. The trap. That's not a sacrifice, I said slowly. That's a move. She's pulling at your guilt. She wants you to feel like you owe her. Jeff looked torn, his loyalty and frustration colliding in his expression. Maria, she's my mom. What am I supposed to do? Ignore her? No, I said gently but firmly. But don't mistake a performance for a crisis. If she really wanted to downsize, she could do it quietly. I gestured at the phone. This is theater. He didn't answer, but I could see the doubt tugging at him. Sally knew exactly where his weak spots were, and guilt was her sharpest weapon. A few days later, Sally invited us over. When we arrived, she was sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out before her. Realtor brochures, listings for smaller condos, even a half-written letter to her neighbors about moving away. She looked up at Jeff with tear-filled eyes. I just can't do it anymore. The upkeep, the loneliness. I thought maybe if I let go of the house, I could be closer to you both. Maybe even move nearer to your place. My pulse quickened. That was the real goal. Not independence. Proximity. Control. Jeff knelt beside her, taking her hand. Mom, you don't have to rush into anything. Let's think this through. I stood back, watching the scene unfold. Part of me wanted to scream, to call her out right there. But another part of me knew that if I came at her too aggressively, Jeff might see me as the villain again. So instead, I chose silence. I watched. I studied. Later in the car, Jeff shook his head. I don't know what to believe anymore. Part of me thinks you're right, that she's playing a game. But part of me sees how upset she is. She's my mom, Maria. I can't just shut that off. I don't want you to, I said softly. But you can care about her without handing her the keys to our life. She's using your love as leverage. Don't let her. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his jaw tense. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. And that terrified me. Because Sally wasn't slowing down. She was accelerating, and if Jeff didn't see it clearly soon, I feared we'd be right back where we started, or worse. That night, as Jeff slept restlessly beside me, I lay awake with a single thought pulsing through my mind. If Sally wanted a war, then maybe it was time I stopped playing defense. I'd always thought of myself as someone who avoided conflict. I was the peacemaker, the one who smoothed things over, who smiled when I wanted to scream. But after that night in Sally's kitchen, watching her stage her performance with realtor brochures and crocodile tears, something in me shifted. I realized if I didn't push back, Sally would win. Not because she was right, but because she was relentless. And I couldn't let her wear us down until Jeff gave in. So I planned my first move. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. If Sally wanted to play theater, I would play chess. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. A few days later, Sally called Jeff and invited us to Sunday dinner. One last big gathering in the house before I let it go, she said. I could practically hear the guilt dripping from her voice through the speakerphone. Jeff hesitated, glancing at me. Sure, Mom. We'll be there. When he hung up, I asked carefully, do you want me to handle dessert? He nodded absent-mindedly, still lost in thought about his mother's sacrifice. Perfect. Dessert was my opening. That Sunday, I arrived at Sally's house with a box of pastries from a little bakery downtown. Not just any bakery. The one Jeff loved. The one Sally hated because it wasn't up to her standards. I knew exactly what I was doing. At the dinner table, I set the box down and said brightly, I thought we could all enjoy something sweet together. Jeff's eyes lit up. Oh, from that bakery? Nice. Sally's smile faltered. Oh, how thoughtful, she said, her tone tight. We ate. Conversation was stilted, but I noticed something important. Every time Sally tried to bring up her house, Jeff shifted the subject. When she sighed dramatically, Jeff passed her the potatoes without comment. He was starting to resist her pull. But the real moment came after dinner, when Sally began gathering the realtor brochures again. I just don't know how I'll manage all this alone, she said, spreading the papers like playing cards. I leaned forward, my tone casual but firm. Sally, if you want to sell your house, that's your choice. But please don't do it for us. Jeff and I are fine where we are. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I can't handle the burden anymore. I held her gaze. Then good. Do it for you. Not to be closer. Not to interfere. For you. For a second, the air was thick enough to cut. Jeff glanced between us, then finally spoke. Mom, Maria's right. If you want to move, that's your decision. But please don't make it about us. Sally's lips pressed together in a thin line. I saw the fury in her eyes, but she swallowed it, smoothing her face into something neutral. Well, she said coolly, stacking her brochures. I suppose I'll think about it. The rest of the evening dragged on, but I walked out of that house with a small victory. It wasn't much. It wasn't the end. But for the first time, I'd stood my ground in front of Sally, and Jeff had backed me up. In the car ride home, Jeff reached over and squeezed my hand. Just once. Silent, but strong. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a fighting chance. But even as the streetlights flickered across his face, a quiet dread settled in my stomach. Because Sally didn't take defeats lightly. And something told me her next move would make this dinner look like child's play. It happened on a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sky felt heavy and the air carried the promise of rain. I was folding laundry when the knock came at the door. Not just one knock, 3 sharp raps, impatient and deliberate. I opened it to find Sally standing there, chin high, lips pursed in satisfaction. And beside her a man in a neat suit, leather briefcase in hand. "Maria," she said smoothly like we were best friends. "This is Mr. Donovan. He's a notary." My stomach dropped. "A notary?" I echoed, trying to mask the alarm in my voice. "Yes." She stepped past me into the living room without waiting to be invited. "We're here to make things simple once and for all. Jeff should be home any minute, and then we can take care of this." "Take care of what?" I looked at Mr. Donovan. He gave me a polite, practiced smile. "Just here to witness signatures, ma'am." My pulse quickened. I knew exactly what this was. Sally hadn't given up on controlling Jeff or our finances. She was bringing paperwork into our home. Jeff walked in not 5 minutes later, grocery bags in hand. His eyes widened when he saw his mother and the notary sitting comfortably in our living room. "Mom? What's going on?" Sally smiled like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Jeffrey, sweetheart, I've brought Mr. Donovan to help us get everything in writing. A prenuptial agreement, or a postnuptial in this case. Just a little legal assurance so we can all rest easy." The bags thudded to the floor. Jeff stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "A postnup? Mom, are you serious?" "Yes," she said calmly, folding her hands in her lap. "It's only practical. Maria's hiding assets, and that creates instability. This way we can protect what's yours." I felt my cheeks flush hot with anger. "Sally, you can't just barge into our home with a notary and demand signatures. That's not how marriage works." She turned to me with a patronizing tilt of her head. "I'm only looking out for my son. If you had nothing to hide, Maria, you wouldn't object." The insult hung in the air like smoke. Jeff finally found his voice. "Mom, you need to leave. Now." "Jeffrey." "No," he snapped louder this time. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is out of line. You don't get to dictate how Maria and I handle our marriage. And you sure as hell don't bring a notary into my house without asking." Sally's face went pale, her mask cracking. For once, she seemed rattled. Mr. Donovan cleared his throat awkwardly, gathering his papers. "Perhaps this isn't the right time. You think?" Jeff barked. The notary left quickly, practically fleeing to his car. Sally stayed planted on the couch, her jaw tight. "Jeffrey," she said in a low, dangerous voice, "you'll regret dismissing me like this." Jeff's hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "I'll regret it if I let you keep tearing at my marriage. Go home, Mom." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, with a sharp inhale, Sally stood. She didn't look at me. She didn't hug Jeff. She just walked to the door and left, the slam rattling the picture frames on the wall. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jeff dropped into a chair, his face in his hands. "She's never going to stop, Maria. Never." I sat beside him, my hand on his back. "Then we have to be stronger than her. Together." He nodded slowly, but I saw the fear in his eyes. Because we both knew Sally had just declared open war. And I wasn't sure what she would do next, but I knew it would be worse.